Matin varucht. Good morning to you. Hope it's a nice one for you. Today we're going to take a look at the spring. All sorts of useful phrases involving spring. So, here's our topic. Ancherach. Ancherach. It means literally the spring. The spring. And the an and that t, that's the part here. Ancherach. Ancherach. And this T and E combination makes a bit of a CH sound, a ch sound. Ancherach. Ancherach. This is quite common with T's and I's, and also T's and E's. Ancherach. Ancherach, the spring. In English we might just say spring, but in Gaelic it's much more natural to say the spring. Ancherach. Gleva. Ancherach, the spring. So, how would we talk about things happening in spring? Well, really, we're just going to add on a little bit to this phrase. So, what could we say here? Maybe talking about a trip. We will go in the springtime, right? We will go in spring. So that would be H sheen. We will go H sheen ascherach. H sheen ascherach. H sheen ascherach. Gleva. We will go in the spring. H sheen ascherach. We'll go in spring. Ascherach. This is the way that I was taught. As I understand it, it's a very traditional form. Yeah, gleva. There might be another one or two floating out there that might be a bit more modern. This is the way that I was taught, ascherach. And this is the way that I hear it used by every native speaker that I interact with. I don't interact with every single one, but the ones I do interact with, they say ascherach. Ascherach. You can't go wrong with ascherach. Okay, ascherach. And what is this as? Maybe you're expecting the word oun or ounce. Well, that's what I believe this as is. Ounce smushed together. Ounce. Right? Ounce. Yeah. At its core, Gaelic really wants to flow, and oftentimes Gaelic is pretty concise, even though it doesn't feel that way, even though sometimes it doesn't look that way or sound that way. Oftentimes Gaelic is just really concise. Yeah, higher level Gaelic, I mean. Higher level Gaelic is pretty concise. Ascherach. Ascherach, in the spring. Heit sheen ascherach. Lovely time to go for a trip or visit someone. Gleva. So that's in the spring. And what else could we use here? What about a spring day? Yeah, like a nice spring day. La. Chanyelan e choma. La. La. La yarich. La yarich. It's changed, hasn't it? We're used to hearing ascherach for just the spring. Heit sheen ascherach. Ancherach, ascherach. But now it's yarich. Why is this? If you've studied Gaelic for a little while, you've probably heard this word genitive used, usually with a bit of dread in one's voice, like, oh, the genitive. And so in English, we would say a spring day. In Gaelic, we're going to say a day of spring. It's different in the Gaelic mindset, a day of spring. So we're saying of spring. In English, we're used to using the word of. We put of next to it, of spring. But in Gaelic, we can do that in some circumstances. But Gaelic oftentimes changes the word spring to mean of spring, or it changes a word internally to mean of that thing. That's all that this genitive thing, this big scary genitive deal, that's all it's doing. It's just meaning of that word. And oftentimes that word sounds different, right? Ancherach, ascherach, la yarich, yarich. When one hears it, it might not be thought of as the same word, but it is. La yarich, la yarich. So there's no ch sound, like we had with ancherach, ascherach, no ch. Because remember, that's the T and the E happening, coming together. That's what's happening there. La yarich, la yarich. This is kind of an E sound. La yarich, la yarich. And, as we just went over, la yarich means a day of spring. That's why there's the extra I at the end. It's of spring. This happens with a lot of words. And as I mentioned before, it changes the sound. It does. It does. But these become much more natural with practice. Don't worry. They'll become normal. Well, normal's not the right word. They'll become more natural. You'll just know it. You'll just know it. La yarich, a day of spring, a spring day. Yeah. Oh, la yarich, hobria. What about a nice spring afternoon or a spring evening? How would we do that? We're going to use fescud. Fescud yarich. Right? Again, of spring. An afternoon of spring. Or an evening of spring. A nice spring evening. I love a good spring evening myself. Fescud yarich. Fescud yarich. What about a nice spring night? It's starting to feel warmer, feeling more summery maybe. How would we put that? A spring night? A night of spring? Eiche. Eiche. Yarich. Eiche yarich. Eiche yarich. That just feels nice. It has a nice feel when I say it. Eiche yarich. Eiche yarich. And this has a bit of a Y sound here. Yeah. Eiche yarich. Eiche yarich. That's a Runrig song, actually. It's part of one. Polk un eiche yarich. Yeah. Polk un eiche yarich. It's a lovely song. Polk un eiche yarich. Polk un eiche yarich. Maybe you can translate that title already just by looking at it. Polk un eiche yarich. A polk is a kiss. Polk un eiche yarich. A kiss one spring night. Or perhaps one could translate it as a spring night's kiss, or something like that. Yeah. Leva. Polk un eiche yarich. A really beautiful song by Runrig. And, well, actually, come to think of it, that was actually the first Gaelic song I heard that really captured my attention. I had heard milling songs or working songs, and thought, okay, those are interesting, but hearing Runrig, yeah, Polk un eiche yarich, Polk un eiche yarich, yeah, Yeah, actually that's funny. That might have been my first big step on the Gaelic path, was hearing this song and really feeling a bit enchanted by it. I highly recommend it. It's a really lovely song. Póg an éiche yari. Gleva. A kiss one spring night. Gleva. Gleva. All right, so here we have multiple ways to use the word spring. Or in Gaelic, it's really the spring. An cheadach is the spring. Let's add a little bit to that. Yeah, stolium or stolum, stolum an cheadach. I like the spring. I like springtime. Oh, stolium an cheadach. Stol, stol, stol. And maybe we're making a trip in the spring. Heit sheen asjedach. Heit sheen asjedach. Gleva. Talking about a beautiful, beautiful spring day here. La yarich ahabria. Fesker yarich ahabria. A beautiful, beautiful spring evening or spring afternoon. Oiche yarich, a spring night. And in the Rundrig song, Póg an éiche yarich, a kiss one spring night. Gleva. So this is how the word spring is used in many different ways. And next, let's take a look at the months of spring. How do we use those too? Your Gaelic is really going to bloom a lot. Bloom. Pun unintended, but very welcome. Your Gaelic is going to bloom a lot once these feel a bit more natural to you. Yeah, you'll be able to communicate a lot more, express a lot more. And express yourself seasonally too, right? If it's springtime, it's still springtime. We're getting to the very end of it now. But it's important to express oneself, I think, in the season, the time of the year that's happening, right? It helps us be more present in Gaelic. Living in the present moment in Gaelic is a beautiful gift. Okay, Gleva, I'll see you in the next part to talk about the months of spring. Gleva.